Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Virtual Global Leadership Podcast. I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce our guest today, Pradnya. She's not just a seasoned IT professional, she's a trailblazer in the realm of remote IT teams, an author, a sought after speaker, and a dynamic leader who has made significant strides in her 17-year journey in the tech world. With a knack of fostering belonging, connectivity, and high performance within remote teams, Pradna is on a mission to equip IT leaders with the tools, strategies, and insights to navigate the ever evolving landscape of remote work successfully. Her experience isn't confined to a single sector. She's worked her magic in banking, real estate, consumer goods, and more, consistently saving costs and driving revenue growth through her expertise in software project management and architecture. What's even more remarkable is Pradnya's passion for the environment and her love for music, which provides a unique lens through which she views her work. These personal interests, her dedication, and sharing her knowledge and her magnetic presence makes her a force to be reckoned within the digital age. So prepare to be inspired and enlightened as we dive into the wisdom and experiences of the incredible Pradnya, a woman who is not only shaping the future of work but also enriching our lives with a unique perspective. Welcome, Pradnya. How are you?
Thanks so much, Sagar, for the wonderful introduction. I'm really happy to be on your podcast, and I really love your mission to spread the wisdom in the remote work community. So, being a mentor for the startups, and I see that you are really serving a lot of customers in the startup arena, and you are expert in the remote leadership and the future of work. So, I'm really happy to have this opportunity to share my thoughts today. Thank you, Sagar.
Thank you, Pradnya. No, I'm still in the journey. I'm not an expert yet. I'm just a beginner. But thank you so much. Yeah. And you're welcome. I think it's wonderful to have you, and looking forward to learning from you on this. So it's been 17 years. Like you have seen the rise of remote work. I'm sure you have seen the transition from off-site to online. Okay, so how that journey has been, and the good part is you've been part of the IT world. So I think it would be great to know in brief your journey and your transition to what you're doing today.
Absolutely, Sagar. Even when I look back, it's fascinating how I transitioned into this role, which I never thought about 2 years back. So I have been working into IT industry since long time, particularly with international customers from US, UK, Singapore, and European countries. Even I myself, I had this mindset that I have to stay late in the office, to accommodate different time zones, and sometimes like, okay, my boss has to see that I'm working hard. If I'm leaving early from office, then I have little guilt. Okay, my team members, they are working harder than me, so my boss may not consider me for next promotion. So like I have been like working daily 14, 15 hours in the initial few years of my career. And there was a point where I was contemplating, hey, like, is like, how am I going to continue like this, for how many years is this going to continue? And but then I had no idea, okay, like, what is the other alternative? Is there any alternative to this lifestyle? And that's when, as you know, when the COVID hit 3 years back. So like, we had no choice but to start working from home, and we were forced to change everything, like the way we work, our lifestyle. And that's when I got to experience the power of flexibility and the remote work. So I realized that I could spend quality time with my family, and simple things like looking at sunset, right, which I never did, because mostly I was in office during those hours. Like taking a walk in nature. And I'm a big art lover, so I could, do my singing practice and paintings. So I got to experience a totally different lifestyle. And at the same time, we were delivering great results for our clients. So like I thought, okay, what I have been doing, all these years, and yeah, this is something, I should continue. Yeah. So but obviously, like, what happened is, so things were going well until we experienced a lot of resignations. So in my earlier company, we noticed almost 25 to 30 people leave in just 1 month time, and that was a shocker for us because we were giving them promotion and great hike, and even my company culture was very caring and supportive for the employees. But I thought, hey, there's something missing here in terms of leadership approach. uh, there's something which I need to reflect upon, and I need to adapt my leadership style so as to make it work in this environment. And that's how I got curious about this subject, and I started doing my research. So I reached out to the fellow IT leaders, 30 plus leaders from different domains. And
Mm-hmm.
I just tried to understand, okay, are they also facing similar challenges as me? And so that's how, I got some insights into the challenges. And then I started, finding out answer for them. Yeah, so that's how I got interested in this subject, Sagar.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You know, interestingly, there are not many people in India that are talking about future of work, remote work. I see you doing it, consistently talking about remote work leadership. So it would be great to know, how are you helping your tribe or your customers with your expertise and offerings.
Sure, Sagar. I see that, like, there's little resistance when it comes to offering the flexibility for the employees. Currently, if you see, like many companies, they are also calling people back to office because somewhere they have this misconception that, okay, people have to be in front of me in order to be productive, and the collaboration happens better when in person. So I think it all starts with the mindset. So we really need a big mindset shift when it comes to remote work. So it's also about the perception we have with for the office work versus the remote work. uh, if you compare the results, like as per the current research being done by Future Forum and other organizations, we can see that the kind of results and productivity and performance we get out of in person and remote work is very much similar. There's not much of a difference. But as you know, there are things we need to adapt. So we need to adapt our leadership style a little bit. Also, we need to be more aware in terms of culture. And the most important thing which I realized is having an empathy and creating the kind of psychological safety in the team is very very important. So like if you look at, like if I look at my bosses, which I have worked with a few years back, then when I started, I could see they were more authoritative bosses who had this command and control style. Those guys were running the show. However, I think we need to realize that people who can practice more empathy, who can be more sensitive, who can be more understanding, they are going to be more successful. So I think it's all about having that self awareness and adapting a leadership style and the practices.
So, what, according to you, is the most appropriate leadership style that one can practice in a remote setup? And also, how can leaders, or for that matter, anyone, be more empathetic?
Sure, Sagar. When it comes to leadership style, a lot depends on the context and what kind of environment you are in. Also, the size of the team and the company that you are handling. But I can give you some general idea about from my experience. So, what I've seen is a combination of servant leadership and the situational leadership works really well because like if you compare office work with the remote work, then in office work, some a boss who is little extrovert, who is having a charisma, who has an impressive personality, so those guys, like they had more influence. Whereas when you are remote, everybody is like square on the Zoom screen. So like the personality and the charisma, they play a very little role here. But like the results really show up, as in like what kind of output everybody's producing, that becomes important. And another thing which is important is like how your team is performing, like as a leader, how you are influencing the team. And do you really understand them? Okay, because in face to face it's very easy to gauge a reaction of somebody, to see like how they feel about certain thing. But in remote, like active listening becomes very very important, and that is one way of practicing empathy. Like if you really listen to the people, then you get some clues. So let's say if somebody is using words like, okay, I see this, I see that, right? That means they are a visual person, which means you have to communicate with them in a visual manner, using diagrams. Whereas if somebody says, okay, I feel this way, I feel that way, so that gives you a clue that that person is a little sensitive. And also they need something tangible, like some object, some piece of paper. And that's how like they can be more receptive to what you are saying. So I think the way leaders influence is going to change, so whereas in person it becomes very easy, but yeah, in remote we have to think in a nuanced manner about it.
Wow, that's a fantastic insight. Okay, like I see and then I feel. I mean, this
Yes.
is such a subconscious word that we use, and crafting your communication accordingly. It really makes sense. Thank you, Pradnya, for sharing that. So, how has the concept of remote work evolved in recent years, and what trends are you seeing in this space, not only in India, but you can start with India and globally?
Sure, Sagar. So I see that I see there's a lot of data available when it comes to the US based companies. So I'm closely following Flex Index reports by Rob Sado, and even the reports from Work from Home Research by Professor Nick Bloom. So what has happened is, so during pandemic, most of the companies were fully remote. But now, like some of the companies, they are calling people back, and there are different reasons for it. Okay, so I won't say that everybody has to work remote. It really depends on what kind of life situation they are going through. So let's say there's some couple, they have a small baby, or if somebody has a caretaking need, for them fully remote make more sense. Whereas if somebody who doesn't have any need to work full remote, for them kind of socialization is also important. So I see that the hybrid approach is more popular. And the
So,
number
so, so
of days.
just a quick question here. So you say hybrid is more popular, or also it is at the day it's more like a win-win situation. Are you addressing that as well?
Yes, absolutely. I think it is a win-win situation, as you rightly said, because there is a balance of flexibility, wherein, like, let's say 3 days you work from home, and then 2 days you can still come into office. You can still have some collaboration time with your colleagues. You can socialize with them, so you don't feel lonely. So I really feel it's a win-win approach. But at the same time, like what I have seen in my circle is that what happened is, when people started working remote, most of the people, they went back to their roots, their families. Okay, and then people even changed schools for their kids. So now when companies are even asking them to work in hybrid mode, they have to travel back. So even if, let's say, I have my office is in Pune, but like let's say my hometown is Nasik, so then if I have to work hybrid, I still have to travel, right, 2 days a week to Pune, which can be problematic, or maybe may or may not be favored by a few people. So I think here, leaders, again, the empathy plays a crucial role here. So leaders have to be little empathetic, and I think we need to consider case by case basis, and at the same time make sure that it is not affecting the collaboration.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that perspective. So, as a leadership coach, how do you help leaders adapt to this changing landscape of remote work?
Yes. So Sagar, I created my remote work leadership framework, and it has like 6 facets. Like, the your mindset as a remote work leader, your leadership style, your cultural awareness, and then how much of diversity and inclusion you are having in your team. So like this, I have 6 facets, and I have designed like certain survey tests. So based on those tests, first, like, I try to understand what is their score, current score, with respect to the remote work leadership framework. And I also take on a design thinking approach, wherein I take time to understand what are their specific challenges, what is the purpose, mission, and vision of the organization that they are working with, and where they want to be in terms of their leadership role next, and what is really stopping them. And then based on the current score and what are their challenges and needs, that's how I go ahead with my program, and wherein I coach them on those factors. And it's a like collaborative process, wherein like I give them some tools and practices which they can go back implement in their teams, and they can like come up with the feedback. Okay, like wherein we measure, again, we pass on certain surveys and we measure through scores, okay, how much this particular area is impacted. And with that feedback, we refine the program, and then by the end of the program, ideally, like, your score will be better as a remote work leader on those certain factors. Yeah, that's how I do it.
So you have actually designed yourself the framework and everything. Like you have actually created a tool. Wow. So please share this with us in the comment section post this podcast. I would love to explore it, and I'm sure audience viewers who are watching who are interested in learning more, they can also look at it. Pradna, with the rise of startups in India and as well as in the global ecosystem, first, let's talk about specific to India. How do you see remote work benefiting them? Because I'm assuming you can clear that assumption as well that a lot of traditional companies or SMEs or corporates might shy away completely to go complete remote, considering various let's say challenges. But I would love to know the ground realities from you. At the same time, how do you see startups embracing this format or this form of working and your learnings there?
Sure, Sagar. Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So recently, I've been doing some consulting, for the HR heads, and wherein like I see, especially in India, there's a lot of reluctance to move to the hybrid work model. And as you rightly said, this is very very beneficial for the startups. Uh, and I can also see a trend that companies with less strength, as in below 500 employees, they are more willing to adopt to this model of hybrid and remote work, whereas companies who have strength more than 500 employees, they have a lot of reluctance, primarily because they are set in their ways. However, what they don't realize is how much of the cost they can save in terms of their real estate. So let's say now, some companies owning 4 to 5 floors, and they have this 5,000 square feet of office, and then they're paying a huge amount, right, in terms of their rent on a monthly basis. And oftentimes, not all of the space is utilized. So I see that, let's say I'll give you a simple example. So let's say I'm a remote work leader, and I have scheduled a meeting for collaboration on Tuesday, and I have invited 10 folks, but all of the 10 may not turn up. Maybe nobody will turn up, and I'll have to still do it online. So what happens is, many of the conference rooms, for example, right, they remain unutilized. So I think companies have no idea about, okay, how much of the real estate is really being utilized. So in other words, they are spending a lot of extra money, for the real estate. That is one point. Second is, they are losing talent like anything. So in my
Mm-hmm.
circle itself, like, I've seen a lot of talented people leaving just because the companies are forcing them back to come to office. And the funny thing is, they are even replacing them with, some remote employees. So isn't it, more wiser to just, give some flexibility to the existing ones? So I
Yeah.
think they are really losing the talent here, talent war.
Interesting insight. And how about if like any perspective on the global scene, like can you share that as well?
Sure, sure. Yeah. So globally, yeah, we can see that what is happening is, the people who are in the executive management, I mean CEOs and all, so they all have this thing is in mind that, okay, the collaboration happens well only if, people are coming to office. And sometimes a lot of leaders, they have this concept that if people are remote, if somebody is not responding to my message immediately, that means they are not working sincerely. Okay, that's how they are concluding. Okay, so I think this is where they also need to tune in their expectations as well. So as you know, like, we need to adopt async ways of communication, right, in the remote work, wherein we should give some ETA turnaround time. We should specify turnaround time when we send someone a message, and we have to be little more detailed in terms of our writing. So those things are really missing. And ultimately, it's also a matter of trust. Are you ready to put that faith and trust in your employees or not? So it all starts there. And it's a very deep subject, Sagar. Somewhere I also feel this is closely related to your recruitment process. So they really, we need to, when we recruit the people, we need to have a different approach when we are working remote and hybrid. So those are few things that I have, Sagar.
Wow. So what are some of the important qualities and skills remote leaders need to cultivate in order to be effective?
Yeah, I think having self discipline is very, very crucial when it comes to remote work, because there is no one to, like, look upon your shoulder and, force you to do the stuff. And, being accountable, and having that approach wherein, you intentionally connect with people, because you are not going to accidentally bump into your colleagues. And also ability to gain trust of your clients, of your stakeholders, of course, like by producing the results that you need. So those are like some of the qualities that a remote employee should have. And when it comes to a remote leader, I think you should be good at written communication, should be a really good listener with empathy, and a focus on outcomes. So instead of, micromanaging people, should they really have to understand like what drives their people, and then yeah, build a close
Sure.
relationships with them.
Sure. So we'll go slightly deep here. You mentioned a very important point of being self-disciplined. So what are some of the baby steps someone can take to be more self-disciplined, in their this path?
Sure, Sagar. So I think, yeah, there are certain things which we generally tend to follow, like, preparing a schedule for the next day and sticking to it. But I'll specifically mention the practices that I found useful for myself. So sticking to morning routine, it really, like, gives me energy. So simple things like, doing my exercise, meditation before I start my work. I also find the techniques by neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman very, very helpful. So right now, as you know, we live in a world which is full of distractions. So, I have my Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, right? Everything is there on my phone. So anytime you are doing some deep work, keeping your phone aside, and simple things like, focusing on your screen for a few seconds before you start the work, and then playing some white noise music in the background, uh, and doing some, yeah, taking regular breaks. Yeah, those are the things which really keep me focused, motivated, and that's what helps me follow my discipline routine.
Wow, wow. Thank you for sharing that. So, how can leaders foster a sense of belongingness and connection among remote team members?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sagar. I think one of the challenges remote work is having is like, because we are not going to office, we don't have any visual cues, for the company culture. So we, sometimes we miss that, sense of belonging. Because if you go to any company office, they'll write some slogans and their values on the walls. So those visual cues are really missing in the remote work. So in that case, there are a few practical steps that the remote leaders can take. So as they say, culture is how you behave with your team on a daily basis. So it also comes down to leading with example and really demonstrating the company values with your own behavior. At the same time, like what I like to do is, having some visual, which I can play. So with some music, right, some inspiring music, and which has a crux of my, company values. So playing that video at the start of the meeting, just like it could be very short video, like 30 seconds, 1 second, but it like automatically, people will see those values, or those things visually, and the music is something that really inspires people. So yeah, I'm a music lover, and I like painting and pictures. So that's how that's one way I feel like. So basically, we need to remind people about, okay, what are the values we stand by, and what is our mission. So leaders have to basically repeat it in a simple language. And so speaking about it is one thing, but I think if you can really make it little entertaining, because remember, we are competing with YouTube and Instagram and Netflix, right? So now our competition is a little different. We are not really competing with other IT companies.
Hmm, interesting. You know what, Pratna, I've been listening to your perspectives. One thing that clearly stands out in all the answers you shared is the fact that it's the core human psychology that comes into play, right? When you say, even for that matter, when you say being empathetic, right, it creates a healthy bond. It creates trust. You say a simple thing like sharing a video. So sharing the video, a 1 minute video, it really plays on the perception. It really hits that part of the human mind where again the trust initiation happens. So I think lot of these softer elements, there's a mix of softer elements that are playing its role. And I think what I see that you are doing right now is that you're connecting all these softer elements together, stitching it together, of course, with a lot of hard elements when it comes to managing, let's say, the digital infrastructure, where that's the core, without which it may not, the remote work will be difficult. But I think what I really are gaining from your perspectives as this small things that that needs to be stitched together to make it happen. So thank you for sharing that. Do you have any thoughts here?
Yes, thanks so much, Sagar, yeah, for acknowledging that. I also feel like we can really leverage gamification element here, because we have to see now in the remote work. If you want to hold people's attention, you have to be more creative. So when it comes to sense of creating a sense of belonging, like you have to create an environment wherein people can automatically connect based on their interest, based on what they care about. Okay, so it's not really, so even if you invite everybody for virtual coffee, right, people may be still reluctant to join it. Somebody, they might feel, okay, why not play with my own kid, right, rather than joining that virtual coffee meet. So instead of that, I think the enterprise social networks can play a very crucial role here. So some website or software just like Facebook, but it is for the internal employees, wherein you have separate spaces created, let's say for sports, for music, wherein people can automatically come together based on a shared interest or a shared goal, like maybe some social work, uh, right? And what happens is like people, I think, like attracts like. So people automatically come together when they share, care for a common cause, or when they share a common interest. And that's what really binds them. Okay, so they may or may not be part of the same team, but what is important is, at least for the at a company level, they should feel that, okay, I belong to this company. And as a leader, our goal is to create an environment wherein people can automatically bond with each other. So that is a one way of creating automatic connections and belonging. But at the same time, like as a leader, we have to be strategic. So they could be folks who are important for us, like, but we may not share common interest, but we know that, okay, they hold certain power. And if we have to achieve certain vision, then yeah, we have to have be strategic about our relationship with them. So creating team relationship maps is another way, where leaders can play a very strategic role. So they should know, okay, in order to meet this particular vision, what is a buy-in I need, let's say, from other departments, from other clients. And how much, how can they serve others, and how can they leverage their skills, and who is it, how people can either benefit them or maybe hurt their goals. So those are the four factors that leaders need to think about, and then plan it out. Okay, like what should be the strategy, to handle these. And in remote, it becomes important that you connect with them intentionally. So then you either connect with the phone call, video call, or maybe you go out sometimes. But yeah, so there's a strategic element, and there's a element wherein we can bring in people, we can organically bring in people together as well, Sagar.
That's a very good perspective. Again, you touched upon a very important point on creating an environment. Okay, and personally, I've been in. Interestingly, my love for remote working happened when I was in a co-working space. I was part of this co-working company, which is fantastic, a 91 Springboard, which is based out of India. And that was the first time I learned about remote work back in 2017. And fortunately, I've been in responsibilities where environment uh, setting environment for leaders was one of my roles. And in the next role also, I was in an incubator again, uh, creating environment for leaders to succeed, like do everything, be it consulting, community building, and other activities. Now, someone like me who is transiting into the remote arena, and like other leaders who are trying to create impact in the remote arena, not only leaders but teams, right? What are some of the steps one can take to create that environment digitally? I know, I mean, it will take its own sweet time, but still, if you could give a good perspective, that will personally help me, because I'm in that particular field. But also, I would love to spread this message across other leaders that these are all these little things you can stitch together. So please share your thoughts there.
Sure, Sagar. I think it's a great question. Like creating that environment, okay, where people can thrive and come together. So there are two elements to it. One is like doing it digitally, and other is like doing whenever you come together as a part of your physical meet. So now you can see that companies are remodeling their spaces into studios, so that where people can collaborate well. And so basically they are trying to inspire people wherein they really want to come to office and experience it. So that is something physical. And you asked about digital, right? So digitally, I think there are multiple things we can do. So what we can do is we can have communities, different communities, wherein where they care for a specific cause. So let's say, like, I run a community for called leadership lessons. And then there could be some other community, maybe, let's say, which is caring for the cancer patients, and somebody who cares for nature. And what happens is, like, people will automatically be interested in those communities. And I think here we should not limit ourselves to our project and only the team which we work with, but we should also learn from other folks. So let's say the folks who are in the pharmacy, or maybe even doctors. Yeah, I see the other day you conducted a workshop for doctors on servant leadership. So that was awesome, because I think we really need to cross do some learning from other disciplines, and that's where the creativity comes about. And so that is one thing. Second is making people keeping people engaged. So what happens is, first, it's really hard to get everybody, even if you plan some meeting or some session, right? So first is it's hard to get them on the call, and second is like keeping them engaged. So when you arrange some event or some session, right, so then asking them to take some action is one way where we can keep people engaged. Like simple things like, okay, putting some message, asking them to reply with some message on the chat, even creating polls using digital tools like Zoom and Slack. So those are the some of the ways where we need to keep them engaged. Third element is accountability. So I mean, if we want people to work towards certain goals, certain cause, we need to give them some accountability partner. Because yeah, we tend to forget, there are so many distractions these days. We just tend to switch from one thing to the other, and we just forget about it. So if we have an accountability partner with whom we have to give them something to practice, or something where they can exchange the ideas, or let's say refine some idea. So let's say you are in a startup mentor. So maybe let's say you have a community of startup owners. So then if I am a startup owner, you are mentoring me, and if I have accountability partner with whom I can discuss my idea, and then we can share our insights with each other on a regular basis. If you can make it regular, say on a weekly, monthly basis, that will really keep me accountable, and it will also refine my skills, and that's what will give me a motivation to really continue working towards it. Also giving people little rewards. So like, let's say sending them some gift, like some t-shirt, some symbol that inspires them, so which they can keep on a table, and that reminds them of, okay, like this is Sagar, and yeah, this is what really inspires me, some object, some symbol. And second is like, as I said, right, utilizing the software. So let's say in Teams, Microsoft Teams, you can give people maybe thank you badge, or champion badge. So so even if somebody sends me that champion badge, so that also gives me some inspiration, keeps me motivated. So I think digital using digital tools intelligently can be creative to achieve this.
Slightly off topic, but when you were expressing this, I was thinking, okay, can this be a very good productivity hack? I mean, and from an organization point of view, especially organizations that are selling products and services digitally, maybe they can have a partnership with the remote teams, saying that, I'm just sharing idea, I'm just sharing.
Sure,
And I
sure.
thought that, okay, if the work is happening on time, if expected targets are being met, everyone is growing, evolving, then they just have to put the achievements, and accordingly they will get maybe an Amazon voucher. I don't know, could other gifts. I was thinking in that direction, this could be a huge, let's say, a good, great partnership. So this is something that came to my mind. I just thought of sharing that with you. uh,
Wonderful, Sagar. Yeah, I like this idea.
Okay. So, how do you see the concept of work-life balance evolving in the concept of remote work, especially as we are out of pandemic right now?
Yeah, that's another great topic, Sagar. So I see a lot of people struggle to have this separation between work life and home life as we started working remote. So people struggle to have those boundaries, especially when they have kids at home, or like having a small houses, especially in cities like Mumbai. You must be aware, like people don't have very big houses. So they can't sometimes afford to have a separate room, right, which will give them that focus. In that case, yeah, there are multiple approaches to this. So here, one approach is the work-life balance, and other is a work-life integration. And it really depends on, like, what you prefer at an individual level. So let's say if I'm a person who prefers to keep, work and family time separate. In that case, like, what we can do is we can utilize the co-working spaces, and even like the public libraries or colleges or some place wherein we can go and focus on the work, and then we can come back and still have good time with our family. So I find it very easier whenever I have to focus on something. I just go to some space, I do my focused work, and then I come back, and then I'll do some light work which doesn't need that much of concentration, where I'm okay with the noises at home. That is one way. Second is work life integration, wherein you just you follow your a non-linear day, wherein you honor your personal commitments, and at the same time you also so knowing our focus time, like where when you can focus best, is very important. So let's say if I'm a morning person, I'll work 7 to 9 focus time, then maybe I'll drop my kids to school, and then in the afternoon I'll have maybe core hours overlap with my team, wherein I can have a synchronous collaboration with them. And then again evening time, yeah, I'll work for 2 hours, and maybe I'll go to some hobby activity and come back, and then yeah, call it a day. Yeah, so those are some of the strategies we can use.
Interesting, interesting. So, how do you assess and measure the success of leadership coaching programs for remote leaders?
So there are like what I do is I use a lot of surveys, questionnaires, like to help gauge. So I'll give you some examples here.
Sure,
Okay,
sure, that will help.
so I think the success of the leaders, it really depends on how much they can get done from the team. So ultimately, like they have to focus on how their team, what kind of results their team is producing right now. Okay, so let's say what are their challenges in terms of performance, where does the team and project performance stand, how much of a psychological safety they have, do they feel free to open up about their challenges, do they feel free to ask for help, right? So those are some of the parameters which I gauge. And then at the end of the program, like we again survey the leaders as well as the team, and see, okay, like what is now current level of the psychological safety they're experiencing, and how it is impacting their performance parameters. And even like what I've noticed is, has this program transformed your your influence and ultimately your results. So because it's all about the goal of creating belonging connectivity is to ultimately achieve high performance in your role, so that people stay with your company, so they want to stay longer, and ultimately we should be able to produce better results for our clients. So I look for the results that they have, and I also look at the different scores from the test. So that's what, yeah, gives me an idea about how successful a program is.
Wonderful, wonderful. What advice you would like to give to employees who are new to remote work and want to excel in that environment?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of accountability we need when we are remote, because your company, your leaders, they are putting their faith in you. So we have to honor that faith, and we have to be accountable. So what I would say is following a disciplined routine, having a schedule in place, and sticking to that schedule is very very important. Another thing is being proactive about connecting with your colleagues and bosses, and really keeping everyone informed about your progress on certain tasks. So I think over communicating is better when you're remote, and even communicating like in multiple ways. So mostly, yeah, remote companies, they rely on Slack or Teams, and at the same time email. But it also comes down to what is the communication style that your boss, your stakeholders prefer. So we have to make sure that we are using that particular channel for them. So let's say my client prefers email, but I am sending a message on Slack, and he may not, like it, or he may not receive it properly. So understanding what is the communication style of the people that you are working with, being proactive about sharing your status, your progress, and letting your boss and colleagues know about what you are doing. Also being transparent. So we all have, sometimes there could be some issues at a personal level, or maybe you may not be able to work for a couple of hours, you're going out, not available. So sharing your schedule with your team. Um, also they need to honor the team agreement that we have. So team agreement is another thing which remote leaders should get everyone's buy-in. The whole team should agree on the team agreement regarding their core hours and other ground rules that they need to stick to. So being transparent about it is makes it super easy. So if you are not available, transparently letting the team know about it. And also, like, being sensitive, especially in case of multicultural environment, where you are collaborating with people from other countries. So honoring their holidays, their lunchtime, dinner time. And here leaders also play a role, so they have to set certain core hours, where everyone should be available. And considering people working from multiple time zones, and that as a team member I have to respect it. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you for sharing that, Pradnya. How, what are some of the common misconceptions or challenges that leaders face when managing remote teams, and then how can they overcome it?
Yeah, the biggest one, which I've seen is the tendency to, like, because they cannot see people visually, they have hard time trusting people. So they
Is
prefer
it
that.
in India? Is it common in India, or this is like from a global lens?
I can't make a general comment on
Sure,
this.
sure, sure. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen
Because
this.
I understand this is an Indian psyche, so I can understand that that you're saying. Just to kind of get, because there are viewers who would be watching around the globe, so just wanting to, share your thoughts. Yeah, but great, go ahead. Yeah,
Yes, and even, like, another thing is expecting immediate response. That is another you know, misconception that they have. If somebody is not responding to immediately, that means they are not working.
yeah,
And like, I'll go little off topic here.
sure, sure.
But I because this is somewhere also related to your career progression, right? And as you know, there is a proximity bias in leadership, right, when it comes to remote work. Like, let's say, if you even if you are following a hybrid model, and let's say somebody is not able to come on certain days because of some issue that we have, and even if that person is performing, they might favor a person who they can see visually. And even, like, the better opportunities might go to the people who they can see frequently in office. So that's a proximity bias related to this. Whereas, even if somebody is working sincerely, and they have their performance, they're delivering great results, they may not be considered for the next promotion just because of the proximity bias. Yeah, so those are some of the things I think leaders need to be aware of, and really make it part of uh, performance measurement and appraisal process, and really filter it out. Okay, they need to ask this. Okay, am I having this bias? Okay, am I looking at the results of somebody has produced, or am I just thinking about uh, how many times I've seen that person in office?
Interesting, interesting. Now, Pradnya, bit more about you, Pradnya. Uh, how do you, what is your thought process on your own career transition? Because you've been in part of organizations, now you're, building your own organization. What made you think that? What were some of the butterflies that you had in your stomach that you had to overcome? I just wanted to get some ground reality there. What's your thought process and managing your own career transition?
Yes, Sagar, I would love to share about it. So, like, when I started my career, I was very passionate about programming and software development, and I enjoyed it a lot. So, I thought, okay, I'm really following my passion. But then, like, almost 2-3 years back, what happened is, like, I was doing well in my career, so I had, a good job title and everything packaged. But somewhere I thought that okay, I'm missing something. Okay, I'm no more able to connect with this, and there's something else, that I should explore. And I think this pandemic has it really made me reflect on all of my life choices, not only work but even in terms of life. The kind of people I have in my life. Okay, why do I have this, person, and why I'm accepting, this from maybe certain boss or certain friend. So there's a lot of reflection that happened, especially when I was forced to work from home. And I would say I had to face myself, my own thoughts, and which I had been suppressing, all this time, and under, under the status, maybe under the package, whatever, like okay, I'm earning this much, or I'm at this level. And that's where, like, I really started thinking, okay, what is it that I enjoy? So as I told you, right, the one of the biggest motivation for me to transition into this role is, I love music, arts. So I thought that okay, now I've worked hard for so many years, but now I rest of the life I really want to live for myself, and I want to spend time on things that matter to me, and I want to spend quality time with people who matter to me. Okay, now, like, slowly I had this transition wherein I let go of what others perception, okay, what others are thinking, and then I started valuing my own life choices and what I like. So that's what motivated me. Also, I'll tell you, like, my little story. So 3 4 years back, I tried to start my software development company. So I think I came to US for a few months, and I was on a break. Yeah, I just took vacation, and because I thought okay, I should experiment with something else. But at that time I didn't have the the consulting and sales marketing skills. So I did couple of projects, like I developed couple of websites, but then I thought I'm struggling too much, yeah, especially with the pricing and all. So I just went back. I accepted another job, and I went back to my software career. But this particular like role which I am in right now, I really love it because I like to teach, I like to study a lot, like so studying is like always I enjoyed, and I like to spend my time flexibly, the way I want. That's what I love about the remote work. And that's what, like, I really want to show people that hey, there can be an alternative way of living life. Okay, we don't have to dance to the drum of the different companies, but yeah, we can live our life the way we want.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great, great. And also, I think now there are good remote first organizations also. If someone want to, let's say, work with an organization, but the only challenge is how does the skill set and the value that the a person brings in will help the remote first organization. But I think that's a challenge even if the organization is off site. But then one final question I have for you, and this very this question itself is very difficult, so please I'll try to phrase it the best way I can.
Yeah.
Now, there are there are leaders or team members who have been consciously part of the remote journey. For
Okay.
them to transit to a new organization could be a uh, the natural thing to do, or maybe they can do something of their own. Okay, now there are people who are good leaders or good team members, but they aren't aware that remote is something that can be of value to them. They might have these skill sets, but they lack, let's say, lack, or rather, they are not aware that they can transit. And the third kind of people, who have, let's say, been in the industry for a long time, let's say they are not a fresher, they've been in the industry for about 8 to 10 years, and then they want to transit it to a completely remote first organization, but from a skill set and experience they bring in the same value. It's just the transition, because other person or the organization must also think during the interactions that the person can create value in a remote setup, irrespective of zero experience working remotely. So I want to understand from you on all these three levels, starting from the level which I expressed last, how that can be managed effectively.
Okay. Yeah. So the last point, let me rephrase it, and
Sure,
if you
sure.
can correct me,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I
yeah.
understood it. So last point which you mentioned is some leaders who have been working in a traditional setting, like in person setting, and but they want to transition to a full remote company. So then, how can they make this transition smooth? Is that your question?
Yes, yes. With zero experience in remote.
Zero experience in remote. Yeah, I think it's very much possible, Sagar. However, provided they are flexible and adaptable. So, as you know, when we are fully remote, basically, it's great if they can get themselves trained on the skills they need for remote. That's great. And also because there's a lot of psychological factors that comes into picture here, because we have been conditioned, like especially in India, right, for so many years, that okay, you have to be in office, you have to stay late, right, you have to slog to get promoted. So all those things, right, they need to change their thinking. So I think getting themselves staying informed, and getting some training on, okay, what are the, like, what are, where am I at my current skill level, in terms of let's say my mindset, and how am I managing team, how am I managing the performance of the team, okay, what do I expect, okay, whom do I promote, okay, what is my definition of high performance individual, right, and even like how I collaborate with my clients, with my bosses and other colleagues. So they really need to assess, okay, where they are currently, and then think about, if I have to transition to remote, then okay, what kind of mindset I have, how can I design my performance parameters, okay, how am I going to change my perception about performance, okay, or maybe how do I design my performance parameters, performance measurement criteria, uh, how do I change the way I conduct the meetings, how do I change the way I communicate, how am I planning to manage my relationships, different relationships, right, in the organization, uh, as a leader, and how yeah. So I think, yeah, that there is some element of self reflection that they need to do, and then it is definitely possible. So there's also an element of risk here. I think it's, we can always experiment. So I
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
in this,
yeah, yeah,
1 year
yeah,
experiment. Like, just try it
yeah.
for 1 year. It works great. If not, we'll see.
Yes, yes. No, no, no. Thank you, Pradnya, for sharing all your thoughts. I know this question just came to me because, I mean, I just went deep to understand. Okay, like there are, I mean, so many possibilities, but this is a great possibility, and that is where even the remote ecosystem will benefit, because talent, of course, is widely available. Then someone who, so that's where I came from. Okay, people who have worked for like what 10, 15 years now, they feel they have their needs, as you rightly pointed out, that they would like to spend time with their family, would like to focus on their work life integration, and there will be a hesitancy that will I be able to perform remotely, because, and then there are people who have naturally started their journey remotely, or their organizations are remote first, or they've been, let's say, in their mid career, they have experienced a mix of remote and hybrid. So that is a bigger audience that I empathize more with. So that's how I was thinking, okay, can be sense something be solved here. Maybe we can have an offline conversation and brainstorm, okay, how can we support or create programs for these people. So that's where I was thinking. But
Sure. I
but
would
thank
love
you.
to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Pradnya, for joining us, and thank you, viewers, for listening. It's been fantastic to hear your perspectives and share it with the community. And I promise to my viewers that I'll bring Pradnya once again in the second season, and we can talk about specific topics related to future of work or leadership, maybe with a different element, not only the remote part but the core leadership part. That's where I feel that we can have a good hour long conversation. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, Sagar. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. best wishes to you.
Thank you. Thank you.